Where do you even begin?
I have no idea.
In a franchise of 10 films.
Honestly, overwhelming.
10.
I know.
And at some point you just stop. Well, if you thought it through, you could have gone like the 10 Commandments, some sort of like thing, or like there's 12. Maybe you do 12, and it's like the unholy apostles.
Sure.
That's sort of like what Cenobites are, right?
Kind of similar,
yeah.
But they didn't really plan it out that way.
No, it's not planned at all.
No, they kind of like tripped into this, I feel like.
Yeah, and in fact, the stories that Barker wrote, themselves are supposed to be anthology. He's not like,
sure.
Well, after that last adventure, Pinhead made sure he'd never order tickets online ever again. And it was supposed to be like it's like the Sandman. The Sandman is really an anthology. Now, after 75 issues, you can start to like tell a story about Dream himself and like his
siblings.
Ultimate sort of, fate. But it's, a bog standard Sandman story is so-and-so's doing something he shouldn't do.
Right.
And he gets to, the end of the second act, and then he comes home, and there's a guy with eyes like stars in deep pool of water and flames flickering in his robe. And
right.
It's like, and that's kind of like, Pinhead is the Sandman of this series.
Right.
But even in the stories, because he was writing them continually, I don't know, he might still be writing them, but in coterminous with like the films coming out.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the fans were like, man, we love the Cenobites. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll keep using them. I didn't necessarily intend to like have them show up all the time. So
right. But they kind of became the through front.
Yeah. And they absolutely, even in the middle of the second movie, which we'll talk about, became the focus of the films as well.
Yes.
Which, I don't know. I guess we'll save that for the actual segment when we get to it. But like, what's the draw? Like, what is it about
the Cenobites
that people just keep coming back to?
I think he's very iconic. I think when they created his look, it's something that's really creepy and unsettling, but people can also understand in a real world sense what he is.
The guy got a pin in his head.
Yeah, it's not even pins, they're nails,
How come the sunglasses fat guy didn't go through?
I don't know. I think all of the Cenobites are scary and weird in their own way,
Yeah.
And but I think there's something really compelling about Pinhead that just draws people in. I don't know if maybe it was, the actor Doug Bradley, like maybe it's his voice as well, like he seems, even though he's like this, I don't, Herald of Hell or what have you, he's kind of...
his name is Harold? I didn't know that.
I feel like he's very compelling. Like, you can't help but feel drawn to him.
Yeah.
And I think Christy feels drawn to him too, but she at the same time just like hysterically wants to get out of there. So,
well,
which I don't know, sometimes works in her favor actually. So
yeah, it's well, why? Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll get there. Let's not blow it all now.
Sure.
We have such sights to show you. On the Just Enough Trope podcast, I'm your host Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
And we are here to bring you all the news that's fit in the world of cast and entertainment and the good stuff.
Yes.
Tired. Had a big weekend.
Yeah, it was a big weekend.
We went to Crypticon, Minneapolis this
Yes.
weekend. It's one of the reasons we're talking about Hellraiser, because, of course, Doug Bradley was there,
yes.
as was Ashley Lawrence. And it's a con all about films, but, specifically horror films,
yes.
thriller films, and that sort of thing. And it's not something that we had done in the past because we felt like it wasn't like our speed, but a little game of Scream-tastic 2000s, Scream Queens, Scream Queen. What's the game called?
Oh, it was Slash Cards.
Slash Cards, yeah. Confirmed for me that I think we're on solid ground.
You were much more knowledgeable about horror films than I
Well,
was.
I ended up knowing more than I thought. I never thought of myself as a horror guy, but I've seen a lot of these things, and yeah.
You are a movie guy.
Yeah,
so.
and to the point, well, I'm a movie guy. To the point where I could go to a panel about, 80s horror and sort of like the development of it, like what are the sort of tropes and stuff behind 80s horror, and have like a few bones to pick with what was going on.
Yeah, right.
I didn't think anybody was wrong, but I thought that they missed a few points. So, yeah, we're going to talk about our experiences at Crypticon this weekend. Also about some of the guests that were there. We mentioned previously Doug and Ashley, as I call them. Also from that film, Andy Robinson was there, who played Larry in the film, but
and
also
later
played Frank as well. It's good that they both have generic names. You get them screwed up, it doesn't matter. He played them both.
Right.
And also, of course, the actor behind Garrick and many other films.
Yes.
We'll talk about a talk that he gave and our impressions about that. And what else?
What else? Twin Peaks. Cheryl Lee and Dana Ashbrook were also there. And there was one other guy from Twin Peaks. I can't remember his name, so that's really helpful.
Oh, okay. But he was one of the side characters.
Yes, he was.
I will know his name by the time we get to our segment about Crypticon.
All right.
I'll also be talking about some of the news in the world of the nerd, of course. And how are you doing? I'm
doing well, Cal. Like you said, a little tired, but had kind of a spooky weekend. I guess we're gearing up for Halloween. I don't know.
You have to resign yourself to the fact that you're not going to be doing this on Halloween. Nobody wants to do a SpookyCon on Halloween.
Well,
you've got
that's
your own
true.
Halloween plans.
That's very true.
So I think perhaps early September, like the closest that you can get or something.
Well, if you're super into Halloween, like you said, maybe you have a whole bunch of different events already planned and like your own party or what have you. So you wouldn't go to a con like this on Halloween, which, I get your point. But I was thinking, why don't we have this closer to Halloween? But I think you made it very clear why
I did a Christmas show with, not to get specific, but with a major theater company for several years.
Yes.
And you just get used to that turkey was great. Well, time to keep rehearsing Christmas carols. You're going to be doing previews before Thanksgiving and then be in Christmas all the way through. And then sometimes a couple days after Christmas proper. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Because nobody can come and see your one, you're not going to do one play on Christmas Eve.
No.
And that's it.
No, of course not. You have to be celebrating it all month through. And I think there's some people who do enjoy that. And
but I don't know. Maybe you would do that. Maybe you don't have time for Christmas. I don't know. Give me your best Jesse Ventura.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen the documents.
There's secret treasure there.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Okay. Give me a little more.
I was the governor.
Wait a minute. No. No, he wasn't.
No. Okay.
It's very specific. He was killed by the governor.
Oh, no.
In The Running Man. That's The Running Man. The distinction between the kind of film that should be celebrated at Crypticon is one that only I was obsessing over, I think. If you came in and went, guys, I want to talk about Legally Blonde, you would have probably you'd get thrown out of there. But
probably.
I'm like, The Running Man is clearly an 80s action film.
Yes.
I don't know how horrific it is. Predator is a monster movie, but it's a sci-fi monster movie, right?
Well, it is, but I think some people might consider it horror because I think some people consider Alien horror.
Yeah, but that's another, I think that's verging more into horror. Dutch fights back. You can't fight back against the monster unless you get everybody together and then Tommy Jarvis kills Jason or whatever.
Right.
It's like a unknowable force that's going to pick everybody off, and then maybe you survive because you stabbed him in the eye with a hanger and you didn't have sex the whole film.
Right. And you're just a little bit more clever than the killer.
Right, so. But of course, that's not necessarily true. There were many different films are being celebrated. Even Dirty Harry,
right.
another famous role of
Andy
Robinson. Yeah. And we're just kind of talking about it right now, but we can't. We got to save it. First, we'll talk about the news. Well, I don't know if this is the right time of the year or what, but there is certainly a lot of news, as there was last week and the week before. Just little announcements of things. Did you know that Doctor Who's Peter Capaldi could be joining James Gunn's Suicide Squad?
I heard that. Film? Yeah. I also heard that possibly Pete Davidson would be joining it as well.
Well, I'm not as excited about that, but...
No, neither am I.
No.
Yeah, I don't know who Peter Davidson is going to play in Suicide Squad, but I heard that he was possibly joining as well.
He could just be general government bad guy.
Pete Davidson or Peter Capaldi?
Oh, I don't care. Pete Davidson, I think, is another one that it's Crazy
by...
Quilt or something, and they'll just tear his head off and he'll be dead. Yeah, no, Peter Capaldi could be... like the David Harbour role in the first Suicide Squad film, where it's just, I'm general government man guy.
I don't even remember Harbour.
That's been his entire career, up until the point that he put on a sheriff's uniform.
Yes.
And just started yelling at everybody.
Right. I'm excited to see who Capaldi could play. I guess I'm a little surprised that he would go for something kind of mainstream.
What else is he going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm a little surprised just because he didn't seem to really like his run as a doctor. So, but I mean, I guess a job is a job, and it's.
How would you like to be offered the chance to voice? Let's say voice.
Okay.
Voice a Sailor Moon reboot, and you get the job, you're excited about it, you start doing it, it's garbage, everyone hates it, and you quit early. How would you feel about Sailor Moon after that? Would you ever want to see a sailor or a moon ever again?
Probably not. I'd be pretty sour about it. So.
Pity poor Peter Capaldi then.
All right.
Hey,
his piles of money.
I don't think you got that right off of it. Right. The writer of the Crazy Rich Asians film is quitting the sequels because she is not getting paid the same as her co-writer.
I heard about that, which is really a shame.
Yes, Adele Lim and Peter Chiarelli adapted John Chu, or not John Chu, he's the director of the film. The guy that wrote the book, I can't remember the guy's name.
Right.
They adapted the first film, which made, I don't know,
$500
million.
Yeah,
it made a lot of money. And she's apparently getting paid less than
her
he
partner.
is. I don't know the exact split or their duties, but that's where she's going. That's it.
That's not great. I think that's a problem that fans are becoming more aware of as people like writers and actors are voicing their complaints that they're not getting. A lot of female creators are not getting paid as much as their male counterparts, which is a huge problem. And I think, her objecting and saying I'm leaving is, a voice for change. And hopefully, I hope that this is something that is going to be addressed at some point.
I hope they bring her back.
Well, yeah, that would be great.
And we talked about the film on the podcast. We said that we thought it was okay.
I thought it was very enjoyable.
Speaking of movies that maybe shouldn't be covered by certain institutions, I'm not sure that it fits, but we are a movie show, and everybody was talking about it. We saw it. It was fine. I think that this is a 50 Shades of Grey situation.
Okay, why do you say that?
You've got a movie company, and I don't know who backed 50 Shades of Grey, but whoever jumped on it was like, we got to jump on this.
Right.
Even as the film came out, the fervor over whether urban or rural, over the whole franchise was already failing. Like the mommy porn industry was already on its way out.
Right.
But they knew that we got to get it up 2 more times, so to speak.
Yes.
Chain it up 2 more times to get every bit of blood. We'll say blood.
Okay.
Out of this stone. We'll say stone.
Right.
Just in our Mad Libs here. So for that reason, you've got, we hear all these stories about the stars hate each other and they're just sleepwalking through it.
Right.
And they're cutting corners and it just doesn't, they're spending less and less on it because they're trying to protect their investment. that's where we're going with Crazy Rich Asians, right? Like, everybody
Yeah.
got caught up in the first one, but do you think 2 more Crazy Rich Asian films are really going to knock it out of the park? And so I think the studio is like, where can we already start saving money here?
Yeah.
But what you don't do is, I don't know how much they're getting paid, but writers get paid a fraction of what actors do, right?
Absolutely.
Pay the writers. Pay the writers. It wouldn't exist without them.
Right.
So, yeah, pay the writers. And
I
then
agree.
skimp on, like, maybe we can write out Gemma Chan or, whatever. But
Right.
I think that's what's going on. So it's one of those things where I don't want to be a Max Landis about it. Like, I understand it, but I think it's a mistake.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, like, part of the magic of the first one was the fact that it was adapted well, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I heard that this is, Crazy Rich Asians is going to be pushed back because of this.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's not. Because that also, like, when a sequel gets pushed back, you risk fans losing interest,
Yeah, you got to get this out right now.
Well, seriously. So, I mean, I hope they fix this relatively soon.
Yeah, well, speaking of things that should be fixed and writers that maybe should be let go, there's
boy.
Things are going great at Apple TV, as we've pointed out in the past.
Sure.
Except they have recently scrapped a Richard Gere starring drama called Bastards that was set to premiere, I don't know, sometime soon. It's based on an Israeli TV show.
Okay.
And it was going to star Richard Gere as one of 2 Vietnam veterans.
Okay.
Which, he's old.
He's old. I think he could.
Yeah, anyway,
fit that.
if it's modern day, like, Vietnam veterans are pretty old at this point.
Right.
But anyway, one of 2 Vietnam veterans who's there's a woman that they both loved 50 years ago who's killed in a car
Wow.
crash.
Okay.
And their regrets and their, like, resentments and their frustration with today's self-absorbed millennials means they go on a shooting spree.
Oh, awesome. I can see why this was scrapped because we don't need to see that.
Why was it green lit though?
That is a really good question. Why was the movie that was like the game, like, greenlit? I forget what it was called now that it was scrapped.
The Hunt.
The Hunt, yeah. I don't understand why executives okay something like that.
That's Blumhouse. They okay everything.
Oh, well, okay. I guess you're right. They're not very discerning.
I'll tell you why. Howard Gordon is the executive producer. Howard Gordon, who worked on the X-Files, I believe, right?
Okay.
A long time ago. He produced and developed 24.
Oh, 24, sure.
Yeah. 18 again. 13 going on 30. A lot of numbers. A lot of numbers in the world. 300. So he did that. Now, that is a sort of rip from the headlines. We
true.
don't care about the implications of what we're doing. Sure, America was just attacked, but things are going to be real dicey for 99.9999999% of the Muslims in the world that are innocent of any hatred of America.
Right.
And yet they're all going to look like bad guys for the next 9 years on this show.
Right.
They
No,
don't
I
care.
get exactly.
They don't care. So they had a success with that. Then they went on to develop and produce Homeland, which itself was based on an Israeli show.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Homeland comes out. Yes, now the ginger is
Right.
is a bad guy, but probably a lot of, like, unflattering portrayals of Muslims in that as well, right?
Yes.
So he's like, well, we're going to move away from the political stuff, but I'm going to keep my, like, he's got a subscription to IsraeliTV.com or whatever.
Oh,
and so he's
boy.
going to develop this, and now it will not go forward.
Okay. Did they cite why? I mean, for obvious reasons.
Why do you think?
Yeah, okay. It's just,
It's once again, it's a thing where I get it, I
Right.
hate it. Because
Well,
it's a
yes.
guy who has made a lot of money and has a lot of success pushing the envelope, he would say. And I would say just developing things without any regard of context of where we are as a society
Yes.
or whether it's a good idea or not.
real world problems being reflected within the material. I guess he just wanted to get some money. I don't know.
Money. I don't know. I don't know. It's like the D&D thing. It's like, let's do Confederacy. Nobody's going to be pissed off about that.
Yeah, it's just like you said. It's insensitive to actually put something like this through.
Well, that's what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think that it's it could actually affect people in the real world who have experienced horrible things like this, or maybe who are survivors of like a shooting or what have you. So I think you're not taking into consideration like the fact that the U.S. is in this. We have been affected a lot by gun violence in the most recent years, and maybe this is insensitive to show on TV right now.
So I left my kid at home on a transatlantic European vacation once. So should John Hughes not have made Home Alone?
No, I'm not saying that.
I see what you mean. What I'm saying is, first of all, in the case of the Confederacy, what can two rich white guys bring to that story? How is that going to help anybody?
Yeah, I just...
That isn't their story to tell. They have no perspective that could give us any benefit there. Mm-hmm. That's half of it. And then the other half is, it's certainly a time where maybe it's calmed down now, but we had a real thing where minorities were being indiscriminately killed by policemen.
Yes. And
a soulless TV producer who Pinhead would go, I don't want that guy. Get him out of here. Just goes, that's hot, ripped from the headlines.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but it's a sensitive topic. What do you have to say about it?
Right.
Jason Blum.
Right.
And the answer is nothing, I guess.
Right.
It's not like you can't do something that does attack that issue or ask questions about it, but I don't...
Have some sort of commentary about it and like have a point that they're trying to get across.
Slavery is bad. There's your point.
Yeah, right.
There's your point.
Right.
So, thank God. And sorry, Rich. His friends call him Rich.
I guess. I don't know.
I haven't been following Richard Gere. What's he up to?
Good question.
He's somebody who's
really
been
know.
around so long, and he doesn't really act a lot anymore.
No. I mean, he was in Chicago years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was pretty good. But I hope that he's like, the smart people produce, right? The smart people start funding things. And Danny DeVito is like a huge producer, and he's showing his ass on FXX every week.
Right.
He's got it all going on.
Yeah, he does.
Here's a little roundup of some bits. The Tomb Raider sequel, starring Alicia Vikander, has been dated for 2021.
Okay.
It's just one of these things now where it's just going to happen. You're going to get it whether you want it or not.
Right.
Because we need to make this work.
Apparently.
And I think the tide is a little too high. I think we could use a drought.
Lifting too many boats?
Yeah. Because whether or not it succeeds, and it didn't really succeed, I'm not sure that it made a profit, but the rights holders are going to keep trying. And then when the second one doesn't work, they axe Alicia and get somebody else.
Right.
Maybe Samara Weaving. Apparently people like her killing people in this other hunting movie, Ready or Not, right?
Right.
And so, but apparently they can keep drumming up enough money from investors or wherever they get their money that they can keep making these flops. So,
I
don't know, man.
Is it a thing like the producers? Like, do they get more money from a flop?
Well, no, it's all insured. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure they don't really lose anything from losing money, but...
Right.
I don't know. So that could be something. We've talked previously a while ago about the, was it Cosmatos? George or Patty Cosmatos, the Mandy guy?
Oh, yeah.
Was backing a Color Out of Space movie, a Lovecraft film starring Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
That has been, it's actually premiering at the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, this last weekend.
But it's done.
Yeah, but it has been purchased and it will get distribution. So
good.
I'm excited about that one.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I really enjoyed Mandy quite a bit. So Nicolas Cage.
Speaking of what do you want? Cenobites.
Oh yeah.
Mandy has had the sort of redneck Cenobites, right?
Yeah. They were all kind of scary in their own way, but like he just like cuts through them like butter.
Well, yeah.
Which is,
but it's just like you see a bunch of like S&M flavored demonic characters. It just makes me think of Cenobites.
Well, very true. you know, and one complete with a chainsaw, which, I mean, the Cenobites didn't have that, but...
No, if they did, it would be teeth would be, literal teeth would be the teeth of the chainsaw.
Yes.
And it would have, like, balls or something like that. Crunchyroll has bought Viz Media Europe, the anime distributor.
Sure.
Crunchyroll was the network that we all laughed at 10 years ago.
Right.
When we were getting our Netflix discs
yes.
from Flickster or whatever.
Right.
And I never had any faith in it, but the anime train is going strong.
They're doing pretty well,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I guess you can watch a lot of stuff for free, but you get commercials, and then you pay a little bit more, and you get to see a little bit more stuff.
It's the model that everything has now.
Right.
You know, we're going to talk
Like
about
Hulu.
Hellraiser later and how we watched it on Con TV, which is like,
I know.
Shudder, how'd you blow that one?
Right?
Oh, boy. You're signing up for all these networks, and it costs $65,000.
No, it's like, what's the podcast called? I can't remember. But
Is it the Nerd Crew podcast?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what they're making fun of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
The City in the Middle of the Night, the book from Charlie Jane Anders, has been optioned for a series.
Oh, fun.
From
Okay.
Sony TV, which is not quite as exciting, but yeah, that's really good news.
I'm kind of interested in reading that, actually.
Yeah, it's on my nightstand. I haven't got to it yet.
Okay.
Just a couple years.
I know.
So I'm so glad for her.
Yeah, I know.
That we were this close to getting an interview with her.
Yes.
When it was possible, and
I
now
know.
she is way far out of our sight now.
Yeah, well, maybe we can get her.
Somebody else who I thought we had a shot at now that her role in the Marvel movies is over, and now she'll be gone forever, is Haley Atwell.
Oh, boy.
Who is joining the cast of the next Mission Impossible film.
Yes.
Now I have to see the creepy Superman one, but I
know.
thought I could skip that one.
I know.
Because it's got creepy Superman, but nope, now I gotta know what happens
I
so
know.
I can watch Haley Atwell kick some butt in that.
Yeah.
What do you think she's gonna be?
I think it would be awesome if she was like another spy. Like maybe she's like
Good guy, bad guy?
I'm just thinking like a good guy, like a British like associate, you know, who can help him out.
Now,
with
is it
something.
Rebecca Ferguson, who is, I know she's Scandinavian or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
she was British in the films, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I don't know. She's
Do you think that role is
blonde or
already
sort of
filled?
strawberry blonde. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think Haley's going to be a bad guy.
Well, that would be exciting too.
I want to
Because I've never seen
see her
like
reel
that.
out her arms, her fists, you know. Comes out swinging.
That would be awesome. I'm excited to see her because I really like her. I think she's a great actress, and she was in that unfortunate series where she was like a drug addict or something like that, and that didn't go very well or very long.
High functioning.
Yes.
High functioning drug addict.
Yes, exactly.
What was she, a DA or?
She was somebody
She was
in
a
the
fixer
government.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to see that she's doing something else. And you know, the Mission Impossible movies, that's another series. I don't know how many we're up to already, but it's like it keeps going and it's not getting worse. Like they vary in quality, I think, but you can't say
But
the
also
initial ones were better than the later ones.
Right. And how do you judge, say, a completely mindless action spectacle where The
Sure.
Rock kicks a torpedo at a submarine with a character drama about a FBI agent who falls in love with the sister of like his target
Right.
and leaves his life behind. It's Point Break. It's Point Break. It's Point Break.
Yeah, right.
For a life of thrills.
Right.
I mean, I would say that there's more character and drama in that film than the Rock one, but
Right.
but at this point, we're just so beaten into submission that it's the same thing with, unfortunately, not the Hellraiser movies, but
Right.
yeah, Mission Impossible, and that's what Tomb Raider and all these other things are trying to emulate. In some cases,
Yes.
they're not really emulating because they're produced by the same
People.
companies,
Yeah.
and franchises, and so they're like, we'll just keep putting
Keep
it down.
pounding it out.
The difference is that the Brian De Palma Mission Impossible was a big success, as was the first Fast and Furious, a modest success for what they spent on it. So,
Right.
But like when the first Tomb Raider film, people were like, I don't think so, and you're like, seconds?
I know. It's kind of a weird move, honestly, but like you said, you know, maybe it's
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hellraiser 11.
Great.
I don't know how to feel about this. Speaking of having to watch things in order to catch up, looks like Gillian Anderson will be playing Margaret Thatcher in season 4 of The Crown.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I had not heard that. Okay. All right. I love The Crown personally. I think it's a wonderful series. And I'm excited to see, oh gosh, I'm forgetting her name now.
Olivia Colman?
Thank you. Olivia Colman and all the other actors who are playing the older versions of the characters. Kind of interested in seeing Helena Bonham Carter play the Queen's sister and see what she does with the role. I mean, the sister she's kind of a bad girl, you know, like she just rebels and just kind of does whatever the hell she wants. And so anyways, but they do actually cover actual events and stuff like that actually happens. And sometimes they share like photos or like a little thing that says like the little update of like what actually happened with the events. And I think that's really interesting and makes the show that much more intriguing.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Are they going to get into like Fergie and Diana?
I think
like
they will. I think
Charles.
Diana and Charles have been cast for this new season.
Because that's I wasn't alive in the 50s. I don't remember her coronation or anything like that. But
right. And we are skipping forward a little bit in time.
Right.
So,
are we going to do a Saving Private Ryan with Claire Foy and then like her face turns into Olivia Colman's?
I don't know if we're going to do that or not.
How do I know who that is?
Right. Maybe we'll do a morph from a photograph. I don't know. But I'm interested to see where the story picks up. So
we've seen a shared from the set of Bill and Ted Face the Music, Bill and Ted 3. We've seen a picture of William Sadler in his death makeup, and he's eating a plate of chicken. It's a lunch break or something. So as far as promotion goes, I know we like these little glimpses, you know, of behind the scenes, but that's pretty thin. Yeah,
it is. I love that he's in his death makeup and he's eating. That's just so weird. I know, but I love that that's the photo that leaks.
I wonder if the main makeup person is up at 3 a.m. doing all the prosthetics.
Yeah.
Then they go home and the apprentice assistant has to stick around through the shooting day
and
to touch up your lips and your chin when you get chicken grease on it.
Well, I bet you're right
about that.
The
main person doesn't do that.
Yeah.
They're going home.
I bet you're right. Yeah. That sounds about right to me.
I wanted to mention real fast for anybody who cares, Disney has inked a long-term deal to use pretty much all of Pinewood Studios in London. Pinewood Studios is the historic studios where many classic films were made in England. Alien, a lot of Star Wars, James Bond films. It's like this studio. There's a Pinewood in Atlanta that Disney has used for the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
Many of the Marvel films were shot in Atlanta.
Sure, yeah.
But they are basically buying up most of the original Pinewood in England.
Okay, so Pinewood was a studio on its own, and now Disney is buying it. Is that correct?
Pinewood's just like the company or whatever that owns it. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I wonder if it must be less expensive to film there as well as Atlanta in some way.
I think this is a move in part because of some of the decisions that Georgia lawmakers have made, where companies are going, well, we're not going to do it anymore there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I think that this is... You say what you will about Disney, please stop making live-action remakes of your cartoons. Please.
Oh, I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon.
But they're a company that puts their money where their mouth is, because like we said, they invested quite a bit in Georgia over this time.
Yes,
and
they
then
did.
This thing happened, and they went, well, we're not going to go with that. And now they're spending $500 million to move a lot of stuff to Georgia.
Okay.
Or, to England.
Okay. All right.
So
well,
they put their money where their equipment and actors and studio is.
Yeah. All right. Well, that makes sense. I'm kind of glad that they made that move, honestly, because it means they have some sort of integrity, you know?
live action Aladdin.
Okay, all right. Besides their live action films,
Live action Tangled.
I know.
We should make a live action Hunchback of Notre Dame. How come nobody's ever done that? Why don't we do that?
Their live action Lion King, I just can't even get over it because it's not live action. It's just a different form of animation.
A lot of money.
I know.
Anyway,
I know.
yeah, and when the time comes, they're gonna get what? The nominations for live action or for
animated
film, because they want to claim their live action, but will they be nominated for? Actually, it doesn't matter if you're best picture, I guess.
Right.
Ever since Beauty and the Beast, but let's not talk about it.
Okay.
One more thing before we go, talking about movies. It looks like the Joker film from Todd Phillips,
yes,
and Joaquin Phoenix is doing great. It took home the Golden Lion from the Venice Film Festival. That's their best picture.
Wow. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
I know how I feel.
How do you feel?
I hate it.
Yeah. Not excited about this film, and this award doesn't make me any more excited about it.
Aren't you excited that a comic book movie won the Venice Film Festival?
Yeah, but is it really...
Legitimacy.
Oh, my goodness. I feel in my heart that there are way more... There are a lot better comic book movie films than this film. And I'm not exactly sure why this one took it
Yeah, but
home.
if you haven't seen it, then you can't judge
All right.
it.
Well, I guess I can't totally judge it.
You can absolutely judge it.
Okay.
Please do. Nothing... I mean, you've made it clear what it's about.
Yes.
You know, it's about... It's about an incel who... ...
Yeah.
Yay!
It's a Joker origin film.
And
nobody asked for it.
And it's super derivative, right? Like, I don't know what, the reception for Taxi Driver was at Venice Film Festival. I could look it up, I guess.
Right.
But it's just Taxi Driver, right?
Yes.
So first of all, it's derivative. Second of all, I think Taxi Driver doesn't make you identify with Travis Bickle. You see how crazy he is.
Right.
And then the fact that he is basically the hero of the film at the end is kind of like who's crazier, him or the world? You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas this just seems like we're supposed to identify with this weirdo who's clearly lost touch with humanity and is doing bad things now. Like, you're not supposed to make a hero out of the Joker, because I know it's separate. It doesn't necessarily take place in DC's universe of films. But there will be a sequel for sure, won't there?
Probably.
But when you fast forward on a long enough timeline, he is the Joker, and we're not supposed to go, that Joker, he just got a bad shake. Like, he is a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a murderer.
He is a murderer, and I don't...
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Second
prize goes to Roman Polanski for Officer and a Spy.
Are you kidding
It's a real bad year for me, too.
Yeah. Oh, boy. That just shows me that it's not great award-winning stuff. I mean, I just there's not a lot of thought put into it.
I think there is thought. I think that Europe specifically is thumbing its nose at
America
at the Me Too movement.
Great.
They did this with. Also, I should say that only 2 out of the 9 people considered for the Golden Lion were female directors, the directors of the films.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got a problem. It's like a couple years ago when they had the whole thing with Angoulême Comics Festival Awards, where there was a protest because, no comics by female creators were considered for, the top prize.
Right.
And so there's a lot of backlash. And then the next year, they did a thing where they had the presenters come out in, slinky dresses... they had the girls who present the awards, and they read that the winner is such and such a thing from a female creator, and then they're like, oh no, we're just kidding, it's Bob Johnson or something like that. Yeah, so they're just...
That's just... Okay, I'm sure we talked about this at another point in time, but that is just ridiculous and infuriating. Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah. It really is the worst.
Yeah. I wonder why you guys have so many scandals and stuff like that, of course.
Wonder why you voted for an incel film.
4 fingers pointing back at us as far as the scandals go, but at least we can still be outraged by something. Hey, speaking of outrage.
Yeah. Are we?
I don't know. I'm outraged by where my table is at this con. Let's talk about Crypticon. The governor, who's still Schwarzenegger. Jesse the Mind did have a good spot at the con. He was centrally located where you come in. and had a lot of people lined up at his table
all
weekend to talk to him. He was one of the stars that appeared at the con. Also, we talked about before, Doug Bradley was there, Ashley Lawrence and Andrew Robinson from Hellraiser. Caroline Munro was there, star of The Spy Who Loved Me, of course, but also many, many amazing, horrible, low-budget, bad movies. Like
Which
Star
is what
Crash
this con
and
is all
Maniac.
about.
Yeah, really the B sensibility.
Yes.
Or even C film. Heather Langenkamp was there as well.
Yes.
From Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The first one, of course.
Yeah.
New Nightmare. She was in one of the Hellraisers, too. I think one of the most recent ones. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Like the Hellraiser 9 or whatever.
They're like, enough of Christy. Let's bring her in from Nightmare.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it was a crossover.
Okay.
But,
That
there was a
fun.
canceled crossover between Halloween and Hellraiser.
Oh
They wanted
my
to do
gosh.
Michael Myers meets Pinhead. But
I
even like
like
Clive
that
Barker,
idea.
who I don't think was involved in it, was like, "Don't do that, guys." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, we're not going to do it."
That's cheap. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All
well, the
right.
fans of Hellraiser are all fans of all Child's Play. It doesn't matter. Basket Case or whatever.
Right.
They're all protective, but fans of Hellraiser are really protective of Hellraiser.
Okay. Well, I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
Well, anyway, going on, some other people who we didn't really... I don't think that we saw them or heard them speak, but were there. Jennifer Rubin was there, who's an actress who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and who I feel like I have seen. She was in like a bunch of like bad like direct-to-video movies in the 90s, but I feel like I've seen every movie that she was in. And I really wanted to talk to her, but I forgot.
No, that's all good.
The kid from Pet Sematary and from New
know.
Nightmare, of course, also was there.
Yes.
Miko Hughes. Some Twin Peaks stars were there. Cheryl Lee.
Yes.
Dana Ashbrook, of course, were there. As well as Chris Mulkey is the guy that you were looking for.
There we go.
He's a character actor he's one of those guys you'd know him right away if you saw him.
Yes.
He was there, and it was a pretty good. Roster lineup.
I think so too, and that was actually one of the main reasons why I wanted to go. I felt like they had some really great guests this year. Not that they haven't had great guests in the past, but
it was
like
packed this year.
Yeah, but I just felt like they had a lot of people that I wanted to see. We unfortunately missed the Twin Peaks panel, but we were able to see the Andrew Robinson panel, which was really great.
That was nuts because I know he's been on my Star Trek show.
Yes.
Enterprising Individuals. So I know that he is he's a talker.
Yes.
And he's a good talker. He has interesting things to say. And he's also the kind of person who I don't think that he only says what he wants to say.
Oh,
I don't think that he'll like say something to make you feel good. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
I'm making him
I know
sound
what
like a
you're
jerk.
saying.
I'm not saying he's a jerk.
No.
But he's opinionated and he's a thoughtful guy because he's been doing this. He's in his mid to late 70s. He's been doing this for 50 years.
Right.
And he's only done the things that he has wanted to do.
Right.
You know, they offered him Hellraiser 2 and he's like, I don't think so.
No.
I think we've done all we can there.
Right.
Might have also been about pay, but anyway. He didn't do what he doesn't want to do. He does what he does. And I think he's thought a lot about his career and the trajectory that he's had. And that's the kind of stuff that he talked about on his panel. And as we were sitting down and sort of walking in and getting ready for him to show up at the panel, the MC was talking about, hey, we got Hellraiser fans out there. Woo! Who loves Dirty Harry? Yeah. Who loves Child's Play 3? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this is a horror crowd, right? A lot of neck tattoos out here.
Yes.
Going to be great. He sits down. First question. I love Garrick from Deep Space Nine.
I know.
Can you talk about the character of Garrick? Oh, I love Garrick too. He's amazing. You know, talking about Garrick. Hands, time lapse are spinning on the clock. Half an hour goes by. We're still talking about Garrick.
I know.
And somebody else is going, who else likes Garrick? The audience is like, whoa, yeah, Garrick.
I know. And they had like
They
questions.
severely underestimated
The Star Trek fandom.
Well, yeah, and just like
that's gonna
the
be there.
impression that he had in that role as Garrick.
Yeah, I know. And then I was like, he mentioned that he was only in like 39 episodes, which I was just like flabbergasted by because I feel like I saw Garrick way more than that. But he
was a featured, player, but not a regular cast member.
Right. And he mentioned that was like the right amount for him because he wouldn't want to be a regular.
That's part of my comment about him kind of knowing what he wants and doing what he wants to do, because he was like, I wouldn't want to go in and do every single day I'm doing, 14-hour days. Like it's just 36 or 40 episodes.
Right.
It's just enough for me to like, okay, I'm going to need to work again. And then I go in, they put the makeup on, and I don't love the makeup, but I can handle that much. And so it's nice to be able to be in a position where you can say, like, I don't want to go every day, and I don't have to.
Right.
Maybe if you're, I don't know, Max Kredenchik or something, you're like, oh, I'll do as many as you want me to. I need the jobs. I need the money.
Right.
But apparently he didn't. And of course, after having some iconic roles like Scorpio and with Sheriff and Child's Play 3 or whatever.
Right.
Then he was like, did a little directing. And then he was, he moved into academia and he became a teacher and he worked, I can't remember what school, USC?
Gosh, I can't remember what it somewhere was. Somewhere in California.
He developed a master's program for actors.
Yes.
And there was a lot more talking about acting than I expected.
Yes.
Now, as somebody who studied acting myself, I've heard the kind of speech that he gave a million times.
Oh, for sure.
But for the kid with the Monster Energy shirt and the ear spikes in front of me, I have to wonder like what he thought about some of that talk.
Well, and like another thing I thought that was interesting,
because he was talking about how like acting is not innocent.
Right.
He was talking about the death threats that he received after playing Scorpio or whatever.
Yes.
And he was pretty sanguine about it. He was like, acting is not innocent. And I'm like, which chapter is that the title of in your book?
I know, right? Well, and I thought that was very interesting. At the beginning of his talk, he was just kind of standing. And then later on, he stood as well. And I just kind of thought, he's kind of taking this as like a lecture, like a faculty member would be lecturing about acting.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of his talk, and he wanted to, get across that like, acting is about bearing your soul, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable in order to get a great performance.
And using your instruments.
Yes.
And all these other cliches that we've heard.
Yes.
You're also an actor, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought that it was interesting that he said that of all the things that he's done, all these scary things.
Yes.
The one thing that affected him, in addition to being kind of claustrophobic and having to wear a lot of makeup, was acting opposite Chucky. Like, that freaked him out.
Yes.
Because they've got this animatronic doll, and it's one thing to be across from Clint Eastwood and he's got hate in his eyes and he's pointing a gun at you, and it's another thing to like have this just inanimate object sort of moving around and being like,
It's
I can't remember.
chilling.
Yeah, it was chilling. I can't remember what he had, some metaphor, but the metaphor I thought of was it'd be like being the lead singer for the Rockefeller explosion.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
That's the animatronic band.
Oh, okay.
At Circus Circus.
Oh, yeah, yes. They kind of terrifying as a little kid, and
fronting,
then like
being like, all right, 1, 2, 3, please don't kill me.
and like I feel like the longer that I went, like the lower their batteries got, and like the more animatronic they became.
Tapping into something I didn't know about here. We also learned, I forgot, he had a great story about making Cobra with Sylvester Stallone, which I don't know if you've heard before. We'll save it for some other show, I guess. And also, I did not know that he played Liberace in the 80s in a Liberace TV film, which I must have seen. I know for a fact that I saw something Liberace related. I might have been a little too young to really remember or get what was going on. But yeah, it was he played Liberace.
Yeah.
And then when he pointed it out, facial similarities. I could see it.
Yes.
A little Liberace there.
Yeah, and he also said something like he felt like Liberace was a really great predecessor to Garrick, like they were like related.
Yeah.
And then somebody in the crowd suggested that they do like a mashup of like Garrick and Liberace.
Yes.
So, I think that would be pretty great.
I think that would be amazing. I want to see that somewhere. He also said that he hated Liberace because when he was growing up as a kid, he was, like a lot of acting kids are, like he was sort of outspoken and he would do a little dance for you and stuff like that, and they called him like Liberace. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't laughing anymore, though, when later on he got to
Play Liberace, yeah.
Yeah. So that reconciled him and the Great One. Does Liberace have a nickname or a...
Not that I
What do they
know
call
of,
him?
but I can't say that I'm like really up on like Liberace.
Liberace as a thing is leaving us, right?
Yeah,
I think
so.
every once in a while it picks back up. When Mike Myers made the Liberace joke in Austin Powers,
Yeah.
I remember thinking, who's going to get that?
Well, there was a movie not that long ago. Was it Michael
Scott.
Douglas and
Say yes,
Matt
Scott.
Damon?
Yeah, right. That
Yeah.
kind of fired it up again. But
Yes.
every time you do fire it up, I think it dies down a little faster.
Yeah, I don't.
There aren't a lot of people talking about Al Jolson, and I'm not. That was complicated. I'm not comparing
Wow.
Al Jolson, but I'm just talking about like
No.
the era of these great entertainers. Bayhive aside, is over. Do you know what I mean? You're not going
Yeah.
to tune in for a special with so and so on broadcast TV that we're all going to see. The Super Bowl is the closest you get to that now.
Well, that's true.
So like Liberace was like, yeah, he was huge, and
Yeah.
also the idea of this ostentatious display of wealth as compared
Right.
to old white guys doesn't exist anymore. That's moved towards like, I think like the hip hop community.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, I
seeing-
can see that.
Yeah, just like, you know, rappers and bling and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
just the fact that like some old gay guy is wearing
I
like a
know.
rhinestone coat and is like, ooh, candelabras. like
Well,
we're not really doing that anymore.
I think like the closest that we still have to that would probably be Elton John, but I don't know how
but
flamboyant
that's what I'm
he
saying
still
though.
is.
Like he's not really
He's-
Elton John anymore.
No, he's like a tamer version of himself. Like
Yeah.
he's not as out there as he used to be.
Well, the heart surgery is part of that. But
yeah,
he's
I
still
suppose.
gone. He's still gone.
I'm kind of like, I'm just thinking back as like Garrick, and he was like a tailor. Like I'm kind of surprised like he didn't wear more flamboyant outfits every
But
once
he's
in a
playing
while.
simple, Garrick. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I got you there.
Joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. Sing it now, God's children. Joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. Give it to a raw bass.
We have such pods to cast you. There's only so many. What's the premiere? I guess that's the premiere Pinhead line.
I think it is.
That or what's this? When he
Yes.
gets handed a picture.
Right, exactly.
Maybe not that. We wanted to talk about Hellraiser.
Yes.
Specifically because we got to run into Andy Robinson. But also because you had never seen it before.
No.
And-
It was new to me.
And when I heard that you hadn't seen it, I was like, oh, you got to see it.
Yes.
And so I showed it to you.
Yes.
And did your response did your response justify my excitement?
I think so. It makes your skin crawl, and
Crawl off your body.
Right, exactly. It's very gross and juicy, and as Andrew Robinson said himself, kind of a kinky film.
That's a kinky film.
Which just now makes me laugh.
Just
because
hearing Garrick
it's
say
true.
that,
Yeah. But it's, I think it's just like a really interesting story. And like he talked about this in his talk a little bit too. It's the reason it's compelling is that it is based in real world types of thing. You know, like there's this guy who's kind of...
Is it?
Well, there's this guy who's kind of a schmuck who doesn't realize that his marriage is loveless and all he really wants is love from his wife, and he's not getting it, and he doesn't understand why.
Well, okay. Put a pin in the exploration of desire.
Nice.
And
I like what you did there.
You can talk about what happens in this first film.
Okay. Well, what happens is we see this character who we later learn is Frank, and he purchases this puzzle box from this old Asian man from
Because this
somewhere.
is Gremlins, I guess.
I guess. I don't know.
They're in Morocco. But
Of
I don't
all
think you would
places.
know that from...
No.
I don't think there's a Chiron or anything.
But then he ends up back at the house, this abandoned house that like was in the family for a really long time, and he's kind of like squatting there. We learn later. But he has candles all around him, and he's trying to figure out this puzzle box. It opens. you see the Cenobites and like he's pulled apart. And the next thing we see...
What? Cenobites?
Cenobites are like these...
They're delicious.
Wow.
From General Mills.
Yeah. They're like these 4 heralds of hell. They're like pain and pleasure or something like that. You know, like they are connected to this box. And if you open it, you call them.
The box... You don't know in these films. You are given lore later on, or I guess it's in the short stories. The Hellbound Heart is the first short story. I think it's from the Books of Blood short story collection by Barker, which I recommend. Andy Robinson talked about reading it as well. It's pretty good. It is chilling. Not just in like a Stephen King, like ooky spooky kind of way, but in like the things he comes up with don't, like, why is there a guy with pins in his head?
Right.
And why are chains flying from a weird angle and gripping your flesh? And what does any of this mean?
Right.
Why is there a obelisk that shines not light but dark? You know? Like,
yes.
You don't understand these. It's like in the great tradition of like Lovecraft. Like, why is this? I don't understand why this is happening. Yes, it's gooey. Yes, it's got teeth and it's scary. But also, I can't understand what this is. I get a guy in a hockey mask with a machete. I get what that is. But like, I don't understand what this is. Like, that's the real horror of it. Yeah, I think
it's otherworldly.
Yeah, and so anyway, like the Cenobites are, I don't know, what would you call them? It's like it's a kinky movie. It's a kinky movie.
Yeah.
They come from another dimension. I think that it becomes, you know, just connected with hell as we go later on, because that's again, that's easier to understand, I think.
Absolutely.
But they say that they're like explorers of pain and pleasure, and
that's true.
You know, Frank contacts them because he's apparently like a sex addict who's just seen and done it all.
Yeah,
you know?
And he's just looking to feel something.
Yeah.
It's more or less what he says.
Which, not to give anything away, but when he has sex with his brother's wife, it's like the most basic missionary sex ever. I read that they did have like some spanking, I think, that the British Censory Board was like, we got to take that out. It's like...
the kinkiest part of this you take out.
Yeah, anyway. But we learned that the box is called the Lamont Configuration.
Okay.
Which I always want to say the Lamont Configuration.
like the author?
It's a chance to show you, you big dummy. Sanford and Son.
Right.
But anyway, no, it's the Lamont Configuration.
Okay.
And I just think that, like, the more lore you learn, the less interesting it becomes, in my opinion.
Because it's not as mysterious
then. Once
you learn what that actually is.
But we'll get into it. So, sorry. So anyway, So they show up and
Larry and Julia show up.
Okay. So yeah, Larry's gone, or Frank's gone.
Frank's gone.
Yeah.
Larry and Julia show up. They decide that they're going to move in, and he gets a call from his daughter Christy, who's, I don't know, college or out of college. She
no more deals, you big dummy. Sorry.
She's like, I got a room somewhere, and she gets a job. We later learn at a weird pet shop. I don't know.
Yeah, she works at a pet shop randomly.
Yeah, and I also heard that this was originally set in England, but then they redubbed parts.
Well, it was shot in England, yeah.
Right.
Again, like a lot of films were in the 80s, a lot of classic films. And yeah, I think because we were like wondering...
Where
the movers are like, hey, what do you want this mattress?
Yeah.
But then, like, Julia is clearly
British.
I think it fits her character, but she's English, yeah. And so I think that the movers were probably like, oi, love.
And then they redubbed them.
Yeah, and then they redubbed them to be like American.
Yeah, and like I guess it takes place transatlantic is what I read. Like it's really non-specified.
As the lore goes on, I think it's sort of retconned to be like Pittsburgh or something like that.
Okay.
Because she is on a wharf at some point.
Yes.
Because Clive Barker, as he will admit, had no idea what he was doing and just shot a lot of stuff.
Right.
And was like, oh, we'll just use that. So.
Right. Yeah, I remember her walk, and I'm not exactly sure why we saw that, except to see that like she was in a big city and she was so small on her own.
Yep.
So basically, Larry cuts his hand. The blood on the floorboards in the attic bring brings Frank back, and Julia goes up there because she hears something, and then Frank, they had sex before the wedding or something like that.
He had kind of kissed her into this sort of kinky lifestyle.
Yes.
Which, I don't know. I think that these films, if they weren't slasher films, could explore a little more the characters.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite scenes in the film, and I read that they actually got less out of this scene than they wanted. They had to cut it down, is the scene in the Chinese restaurant, where after Larry's just been through, Julia's doing her stuff off camera, and Larry doesn't really understand what's happening.
Right.
But he meets with his daughter, who, he clearly cares about, and he's just like, this whole time he's been this buffoon, and he's kind of a stuffed shirt.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like presumptuous. But compared to the other characters in the film, he's an angel, And he just says to his daughter, like, can you just please go
see how she's doing?
Have a glass of wine with her, like befriend your stepmom, because I don't know what to do. She won't even talk to me, and I really need your help. And they couldn't. There might have been more to that scene, but apparently the guy that was supposed to let them into the Chinese restaurant to film showed up late, so they couldn't do half the scene. But anyway, I think it's a nice scene.
It is a nice scene, and we also get the information which we hadn't heard before, that apparently Julia doesn't really want to leave the house, which to the audience makes sense, but to him just bewilders him more.
Yeah,
because she doesn't want to leave
just
Frank.
Not adjusting, but she doesn't want to leave Frank. And then, as we find out later on, she starts bringing men home to kill so that Frank can
get their blood,
absorb their fluids. Yeah.
Yes.
The short story is called The Hellbound Heart, and I love that first thing that we see with the blood. Reverse gets seeped into the floor, and then we go down the floorboards and we see some
a heart
baggy.
almost.
It's a plastic baggie, but it's like a heart type thing that is absorbing this blood.
Yeah, and it's really super gross, and you don't really know what's happening, and then you see this body start to come out of the floorboards, and it's it's so gross and so creepy, but
it's some good work.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I don't think it was a Rick Baker joint or anything like that. It's no. Maybe the guy that did it, I should probably look it up. I don't know if he went on to do anything, but it's some pretty good effects.
It is some pretty good effects. Yeah. I think it's pretty effective.
This is where the goo comes in.
Yeah,
a gooey movie.
It's a very gooey movie.
Yeah.
And I think the makeup guys did a really great job too. Or makeup gals. The makeup people did a really good job
the
on this
Frank
film.
Suit?
Yes, exactly.
The suit on the Frank suit?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody get these people terry cloth robes. Because your little Oxford is not holding that juice in there.
No, it's not.
So we've got the plot of the movie set up at that point. We're going to get body after body.
Yes.
It's sort of showing how Julia herself is sort of now being drawn into this and is complicit. Mm-hmm. And eventually Christy learns the truth.
Yes.
And so she runs out of there.
With the box.
With the box, yeah, because she's got this box. That's been part of this. And she's got a boyfriend character that doesn't really matter, so we probably won't mention him again.
Right. He's kind of a goober.
Yeah. And Christy ends up in the hospital because she passes out, I guess.
Yeah.
she's running away on the street. Oh, this is something else. We'll talk about Christy, I guess, more in a second. But she's running away, and she just sort of collapses, I guess in shock, after seeing her flayed uncle.
Yes.
He abused her, right?
Yeah.
When she was a kid.
That only makes sense.
Right? You don't have a predator like him around.
Right.
So there's a backstory to Christy, but I think unfortunately in this film she's just sort of the plucky final girl.
Yes.
Even in the second film, which we watched, I don't know how much we'll talk about. Maybe we'll get a little bit too. We don't really get a lot about Christy.
No, we don't.
Or Kirsty, excuse me, unfortunately. But yeah, so she wakes up in the hospital, and she has first of all, she has these weird dreams.
She does.
Is she psychic?
Excuse me. I think you mentioned that before.
Well, that's my theory. And in the second film, we see that the doctor has been collecting these news clippings because he's a real wonk for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it talks about teenage psychics, so I thought that's what it was. But she has this weird premonition dream about her father presumably dying, and I didn't know if that was just proximity to the box causes weird things to happen. We know that that's true.
Right.
But, anyway, she's got the box in the insane asylum. She
Yes.
plays with it and summons the Cenobites.
Yeah, it's like for
Bad
some
news.
Yeah, I mean, not like you wouldn't be allowed to have certain objects, but it's kind of like, why did they leave this object in her room with her? But
Give her a Rubik's Cube.
yeah, right,
I'll calm her
exactly.
down.
But so then she sees like this other creature that we hadn't
Oh,
seen
yes.
before.
The engineer.
Yeah, which I don't know why it has that name.
I
guess.
It's a gooey train, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's this really weird, creepy, like almost like a scorpion
Yeah.
type, like
Fleshy
humanoid.
scorpion.
Yeah.
Which was at the con.
Yeah, we saw that at the
Yep.
con, along with a couple of Cenobites, including Pinhead and the guy with the sunglasses.
Right.
I don't remember what
Cool
his
guy.
name is.
Cenobite.
Okay. Right.
Joe Cenobite.
Joe Cenobite, yeah. But, yeah. It's just terrifying, and she, like, freaks out, and, like, she is somehow able to escape her room. Like, I think the Cenobites find her because she opened the box.
Right.
And they're like, you summoned us, so we're going to take you. And she's like, wait, my Uncle Frank has double-crossed you. He's still alive. I'm going to trade, let me go, and I will give you him.
Yeah, I know they're not, like, devils necessarily, but I like that idea of
Making a deal. Yeah.
Which they Welsh on at the
I
end
know,
of the movie.
I know.
I guess they never like signed anything, but
No.
they deserve what they got. Yeah, so basically they let her go simply because she says, you're not that great. Somebody got away from you, and I
Right.
guess if they're going to have a lot of sins, not only lust but pride. They're like, well, we can't let
Yes.
that happen.
Yes.
So they go
I
to-
think they help her escape, right? From the insane asylum. Or the psychiatric ward, I should say.
I think so.
Because I don't know how else she gets out because
That
the
must
door
be.
is locked.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I also like the fact that, as we'll learn in the second movie, there's this whole other world, but like the
Yes.
wall opens up and there are these like weird passages, and you just get the impression that, well, you don't want to go in there.
No.
The guy with the pins in his face, that's bad, but there's all kinds of stuff
Yes.
on the other side of this wall that
Right.
you wouldn't want a part of that shit.
Right, exactly. Lots of gooey, disgusting creatures.
Yes, it's just oceans of goo.
Yeah, exactly. So then she goes back to the house and she demands to see her father, who, little beknownst to her, is already dead at the hands of Frank and
Yes.
Julia. And now Frank is wearing Larry's skin, which is just, I think, the creepiest thing about this movie, and like even when he's talking to her, I know it's a little light, but it's like you can see like the blood on his forehead and like the back of his neck. And
Yeah, and it's where he really gets to shine, I think, Andy Robinson, in this
Yes.
dual performance, is because he's not even doing the other actor's character necessarily.
No.
He's just going from being Larry, who, as Andy Robinson himself said, is kind of a dupe, and
Yeah.
but now he's just completely different, and of course, come to daddy.
Yeah, which is just, ugh. And of course, is something that Frank has said to her before. So just, I don't know, emphasizing that possible abuse, I think.
Yeah,
And is super gross.
and then she rips his face.
Yeah, she rips his face.
Because apparently, when you tear somebody's skin off, it loses a lot of its structural integrity. It becomes like,
Exactly.
I don't know, like latex-ish, or sort of rubber.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And then, like, he's going to stab her, and he accidentally stabs Julia instead, and, like...
Oh, well.
Yeah, he's not terribly torn up about it, and it's like, dude... Like, if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't even be where you are right now.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't seem to care, even though supposedly he was offering her this
yeah.
life that they would run away together.
Right, and that's something else that, as the movie closes out, the Cenobites show up, they discover that, yes, Larry, or at least Frank,
Yes.
which they're kind of fooled too. You'd think they'd be able to see into somebody's soul or whatever, somebody that they spent all this time, like, interacting with.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need to sort of hear it from his mouth, and then once they hear that, it's like, okay, well, rip you apart, choose WEPT, we're good.
Exactly.
But the character of Frank is interesting. We get the idea that he is this sort of burned out individual who needs to feel pain or pleasure or whatever. He is sort of a human version of them,
yes.
Which is weird because later on we find out that they are humans. And so my question is like, if Frank is sought them out, endured all their tortures, escaped somehow, and then when they send him back, he kind of feels like he's getting what he wants, right?
It kind of feels
because we've
that
got
way.
that specific thing where he's like, and he licks his lips, and then he's like, Jesus wept.
Yes,
he's kind of getting what he wants. So how come he doesn't get to be one of them? Why does weirdo doctor guy get to be one later on?
That is a very good question.
Yeah, what's the selection process?
Yeah.
Because all the other ones...
Does your soul have to be dark enough or something
like
that?
But then later on we find out it's like, oh, it's a rubber lady, it's a rubber guy, and then a kid?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Why are you chosen? Why are you part of the elect to be one of the Cenobites?
That's a very good question.
Maybe Larry was like too willful because... I don't know who makes the decisions, and I've seen 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. I haven't seen past, but maybe Pinhead and company are making the decisions, and they're like, we had fun, like torturing / effing this guy, but clearly he would be, if we gave him Cenobite powers, he'd be like competition. He wouldn't just join the ranks, right? Sycophants, right? Lady with a split open throat, right? Teeth chattering guy,
right? Exactly,
right. Because that's exactly what happens. Like, Julia has her own side business where she's picking people for Leviathan, the god of the space or whatever.
Right.
And look what happens.
I know.
He becomes like evil Dr. Octopus and kills everybody.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, so maybe like Frank was really good at it, but he was like too good at it.
So that he wasn't chosen.
Yeah. And later on, of course, he gets just sort of trapped there in Hellraiser 2.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like he wasn't given to the Leviathan, so he wasn't a chosen Cenobite.
Right, but they wouldn't want to because they would have had a doctor on their hands.
Well, okay. Do you think the doctor was chosen because he was a doctor?
No, listen, okay, so let me go through it one more time.
Okay.
I'm saying that Leviathan wants everybody. I think he'd like to make the whole world, because remember, the Cenobites, I don't know, Pinhead seemed to have it pretty good, but the doctor's like tortured as well as torturing. Like, they feel the pleasure and the pain.
I see,
And so I think that Leviathan would and whoever's seen the rest of the films or read the stories is probably knows I'm wrong. But from what I get from this, Leviathan will take anybody because everybody he takes becomes a pleasure pain zombie. They're tortured themselves and they find more people. But I think that like Pinhead, who's been here since like World War I, has kind of set up his own side thing. He sort of stopped the process and said, well, we get to do whatever we want. So me and my crew, whenever you read the box, we come out and we mess with you and torture you and we enjoy that. That's now our like pleasure.
Sure.
But I think Leviathan would rather have lots of Pinheads. And so when Julia sort of goes around the bouncer and ends up in there the way that Frank kind of did, she gets the message from Leviathan. She's like, okay, I'm going to start grabbing people because now I've gone from a lady who likes to have her lips rubbed by a finger to a lady that wants to see other people be tortured like me. And so she goes out and does that to the doctor. But the doctor is super special because he's been doing this his entire life. Like, obsessing over this, studying. I think the other boxes are fakes.
Really?
Don't you think?
Okay.
Is there like, there's a Lamont, there's a there's a rerun configuration, there's a Jimmy Walker configuration. No. Anyway, a lot funnier than you get credit for. But I think that like they're probably fakes. Like over the years, people say, "Oh, this is the box," but he's got his hands on them. But this is like the real box. So anyway, he's been prepping for this like his entire life.
Yeah.
So when he gets in there, he's like a monster who's going to take over the whole thing.
I see your point.
So I think that like Pinhead is the person who is like selected to go out and get people, but he's sort of paused it because he's like, oh, I like doing this.
Right.
And when the doctor comes, anyway, that's what I think.
Okay. I think it's interesting that you think the other boxes are fakes because I was kind of like disturbed.
I'm sure they're not. In Hellraiser 14, they're probably
Well, I was like disturbed
One
to
goes to
find
the
out.
candy dimension or something.
Well, I was disturbed to find out that there was more than one box because, I mean, this box, as we see at the end of the first film, gets returned to the old Asian guy in Morocco.
Well, they didn't know they were going to make a second movie. That's why the house still exists after it disappears in the first one.
I know.
Can we talk about the cricket bum?
Yeah, let's. He's creepy and weird.
Is he the devil?
I think he's the devil, but I think he's also...
That's so reductive. We've gone beyond the good and evil and the devil, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we have, but...
I mean, it's his movie.
Yeah.
Barker directed it, so he got to do what he wanted to do for the most part.
And I think he actually morphs into the old Asian guy who's selling the box.
Oh, you think that he's the... That makes sense.
That's what I think.
After the whole cycle is kind of blown up because Pinhead and his crew are, at least for now, killed or eliminated, and the doctor's head is cut in half.
Yes.
And Julia's been sucked off to God knows where.
Right.
That sounded... fitting, I guess. We've got nothing, and so there's just a mattress, and at the end of it, like, the pillar comes out of it, and then one of the faces on the pillar is the cricket bum.
I know.
And he's like, hey, what's up?
I know.
What's your pleasure,
Exactly.
governor?
He asks, what's your pleasure, like the old Asian guy.
Yeah,
asks.
and mover George Lucas is like, getting out of here?
Yeah, no kidding.
But I guess not.
Like, I don't know who they are moving boxes for, because obviously
Yeah,
the doctor is dead.
What's the movie guy now? Maybe it's his...
Who
I don't
hired
know.
him? Yeah.
His next of kin gets all his stuff.
Well, and like the mover guy that gets sucked into the mattress, we were positing was the same guy.
I didn't
from
check,
the first
but
film.
that looked like one of the movers from the original
It
film.
did.
Maybe the other guy just grew a beard, and that was him too. These movies were shot, almost concurrently.
Sure.
They were shot in England, as we talked about. Clive Barker directed the first one, and of course wrote
Yes.
it. And his editor on the first film directed the second film.
Okay, sure, that makes sense.
And I think Barker did a better job on the first one.
Oh wow, okay.
For all of his demurring about not really at that time being a film director.
Right.
I think there's a lot of sort of nice, very skilled sort of setups. You've got this tiny little house that you picked on purpose because
Right.
it's creepy and it's claustrophobic. And I know he had help from the crew and everything, but I think he put together like a pretty good film. This film is very TV. There's a lot of, the camera's just set up. People walk into frame, they talk, they walk out of frame.
Sure.
There's like at the very end, as Tiffany and Kirsty triumphantly make their way out of the labyrinth.
Yes.
And the doors close and they hug each other and they're happy. They stand up off the floor and walk out of frame, and it's just like two crotches leaving the frame. Like you could have done anything. You could have had the camera move. You could have cut to another angle.
Yes.
There's so many things you could have done. You could have faded on them just, comforting each other or something. But
Right.
you just didn't, I don't know. I think he thinks like an editor.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and the last shot we see is them in two oversized coats.
It's the 80s.
I know, leaving the hospital, which also kind of looks like a maze in its own right,
Yeah.
with trees and shrubs and stuff like that.
And there probably wasn't a hospital because there's no reverse angle of a hospital. It's just them looking
Right.
at something
Yes,
off camera and then walking away
exactly.
to God knows where.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know who checked them out of the hospital either. So, but
Everybody's dead though.
this is true. This is true, and we know the doctor's dead. So,
I'm probably wrong about the fakes because as soon as the doctor gets Cenobite power, he's got all the other patients chained to their beds, working on
boxes,
other boxes,
which
so,
is weird.
I don't know.
And they have hooks in their faces and stuff like that too.
Yeah, which is keeps them sort of. I guess that makes them have to work on it.
I guess,
But
yeah.
don't the chains come from the boxes?
I
So
kinda
maybe
thought
it's
so.
I've got it a little bit. You get one chain in
Right,
the face, and when you get it
right.
all the way, that's when you get 40 chains.
I think maybe you're right.
How were you at? 3 chains down.
Yeah.
What about you? Oh, he's got the mouth chain. Okay, he's almost there. So I just it's the kind of thing that if it had never been a movie, and if Clive Barker had valued it above his other things that he writes about, you could have eventually got a really neat, sort of nuanced
Second film.
world,
Yeah.
sort of world building.
Yes.
But, and again, I guess I can't judge. I haven't seen all 10 films and read all the stories, but I feel like it started to get affected by the fact that it's a film and that there's fans, and then you
Yeah.
hand it off to people who aren't as careful with it, and so now you've got this weird, some parts not so great mythology, but otherwise, like, you know, the idea of this crazy labyrinth, you know,
Right.
this space, Leviathan,
Yes.
the god of, I don't know, pain and misery or whatever
Right.
he is. It's a very D&D kind of thing. It shoots out
Yes.
beams of dark instead of light.
yes.
It's like the globe of darkness spell in D&D. I always wonder, like, what does it look like? It's like, well, I think they nailed it in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Pinhead is just, I think we was talking about this before, but it doesn't add anything to Pinhead for me to find out he was a human. Like, I don't care.
No, I think
like it when
it's-
he's weird, when he's the Sandman. He shows up, he's unknowable.
Right.
He's also somebody who has a little bit of character traits, like he's kind of petty, because when they meet Kirsty again, they're like, well, there she is.
Yeah, right.
You're not getting away this time.
Or you're not going to tease us anymore.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
you little tease, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, but I don't want to know that he's just some bald guy in World War I. Like, I don't care.
Well, yeah, and like, I think it's supposed to be like this huge thing that Kirsty like gives him this picture of himself,
And
then
of
he
course,
remembers.
it's all tied into the Doctor character too. Like, I know it's
Yeah.
key to the film, but it just leads. Like, the third one is all about Terry Farrell or somebody, like meeting like the guy and like going back in time and talking to him and finding out all these things. Like, what was his whole deal? And like, I guess you have to go somewhere in 10 films, but I don't really care what his deal was. I think maybe, I can't remember if they tried this. Maybe it's too hot for TV, but I feel like a Hellraiser anthology series would be a gret thing.
Yeah.
If Robert Altman can do a show about a gun that goes from character to character, then we can follow the box. The box is the main character, and then every week it's just, somebody else. Jordan Peele or somebody produces. And...
Yeah, and we see the Cenobites, and they have some other like introduction or thing that they say to whoever opens the box, and like
we got to get this made.
Yeah.
I have such episodes of this show to show you. Would you recommend this film?
Yes. I think I especially would recommend the first one because I think it was just super dark, and I think it adds to the horror genre. I think it's, even though there are a lot of tropes that you see in horror,
like cursed dangerous objects is a thing, but yeah.
Right. I do think it, gives you some iconic things such as Pinhead in the box that,
and
just
female
kind of...
Cenobite.
Yes.
So
well, she could have had a name. That would have been
her a
good.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's very creepy as well. I mean, they all are. And they're all the stuff of nightmares.
Except for a cool guy.
His eyes are
Joe
closed
Cenobite.
shut. So, yeah.
That was the thing about the Chatterer or whatever. The actor apparently had... So apparently Doug... not Stanley. What's his last name?
Bradley? Yeah.
Had a lot of trouble hitting his marks in the first film.
Right.
Because he has those contact lenses that you basically can't see out of, and it's dark on set.
They're like black.
Yeah. So I think they had to do something with that. And then the guy that plays the Chitterer, I guess it's the Chitterer. Maybe not
Okay.
The Chitterer. He couldn't see at all. There was, because there's no eye holes in the mask. So he's like, Can you guys give me like some eye holes?
Right.
So they did. I guess a lot of fans didn't like it. And they
Because
actually
that was
wrote a
different from the
scene where we
original.
find out how he gets eyes.
Yes.
But for me, it's like, again,
We don't
who
need to see
cares?
that. No. And I'm glad they cut that because it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can see that these creatures, these Cenobites, they have lives, they have things that happen to them that we don't necessarily see, and we can just accept that. I
don't
think.
want to see their lives. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
The Chatterer can do what he wants.
Yeah, I do think that the second film did add to the mythology, and I do think it's worth seeing as well. How about you? What do you think?
Absolutely. The second one, which we can tell our enthusiasm because we didn't talk about it quite as much. I remember it being a lot better than it was when we watched it recently. It's not as good as the first one, but I do like what it adds to the sort of franchise as a whole. But yeah, it's just an original movie. I like the unanswered questions of the first one.
Yes.
Which is something I didn't like about the second one. Is she psychic or something? Like, what is going on with the dreams and the cricket guy? You know, I'm okay with the demon guy just grabbing the box and flying away with whatever. But yeah, it's like his creation. Well, no, I mean, when I talk about like, what's happening? I don't understand this. Those things come from Clive Barker's weird ass mind. A man described as a choir boy by Andy Robinson.
I know.
When he met him the first time. But yeah, you know, he will show you fear in a handful of dust.
Right, exactly.
Like it says on the tin. So yeah, absolutely. Check it out. See these sights. Did you see them? I gotta go get some more sights.
Oh my God.
I have 10 films to show you. No! Well, that's it. Thanks for joining us on a spooky Septemberween.
Yes.
It's not a thing.
We're making it a thing.
We'll have to do something great for Halloween this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year we talked about some of the classic films that were that added to horror, and that was a lot of fun.
Of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do that or something like that. Excuse me. Follow us so you'll be around when we do that.
Yes.
Follow us on social media at Just Enough Trope. Also, check out the other shows on the Just Enough Trope network, like Virtual Theater, Video Game Movie Show. You can find that at Virtual Theater X, Enterprising Individuals, as I mentioned before.
Yes.
And try not to mention too much. Craft Disservices is returning this week with new episodes. On the next episode, I'm talking with Robin D. Laws, author and RPG game designer, about a Orson Welles film, The Lady from Shanghai.
Very nice.
Yes, it's a noir classic. So listen, catch up with us on Craft Disservice, no S, on Twitter to see when that comes out. Find us on all the listening platforms that are out there. Your iTunes, your Stitcher. Stitcher, that's a horror one, right?
Yeah.
The Stitcher. And subscribe to the show so you can get it when it comes out. Also, give us a review. We want to hear how you think we're doing, and give us a rating, please, at the very least.
Yes.
Because that's how we know that you know that we're doing a good job. So give us 5 engineers.
Oh my gosh, no.
What's the story? I'm going to read up on the wiki right after this.
Okay.
Just 5 of them in a line, kicking their little legs, or are they arms?
Yeah.
In a little dance.
Oh my goodness.
And look out for that guy.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where it's like, it's not convincing, but it's so weird that I'm going to agree to be scared by this.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, I guess if a wall opened up and there was a hallway beyond with cobwebs in it, and then a baby was crying, and then a fleshy scorpion came running at me,
I know.
I wouldn't stop to ask how real it was.
No.
I would just run.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's too scary. Give us 5 stars instead. We appreciate that. We'll be back next week to talk about something completely different, and we're signing off. Until then, I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.